closed session at 5:30, just under exception C1 personnel. I would like us to call to order the December 21st, 2021 Special Board of Education meeting for Waukegan Public Schools. If I can have a roll call, please.
Present.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wildcat?
Here.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Present.
Mr. Ewing?
Here. So I do know that Ms. McBride and the superintendent are also here and should be joining us any moment. I would now like a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Meeting is now in open session. Ms. Gillen, if you'd be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up on the list is our public comment. So 6A, we have our sign-up sheet in back.
No president.
Just a reminder, public comment is the opportunity for the public to address the Board of Education. You're allowed 3 minutes. If you need translation services will be provided to you, and you will get 6 minutes to allow for those translation services. We do ask that you refrain from mentioning student or staff names in your remarks. I am going to allow, once you come up to the microphone, if you would like to remove your mask. But please, do we have a janitor here or someone who can sanitize the microphone? I didn't see anybody. And it's only 2 names, so, but just in between, I know. But when I call the names, I will ask you to wait until the microphone is sanitized before you take it. First name on the list is Margot.
Just gonna grab it so I can. Hi, Margo. How are you?
Hey guys, I didn't prepare this. I thought it was the other kind that we had more than 3 minutes. So I'm going to be a little discombobulated. But I'm coming here to say that we need to take a look at some of our paperwork that we're asking teachers to do. Recently I was at a meeting where I had a student who was acting very inappropriate sexually with students. We were asking for support and additional help. The student was going up to their peers and putting their thumb in the other student's private parts. We were asking for a one-on-one. The response was, what scientifically based interventions had we given? And we also asked what we should say when we have to call a parent and say your child has been violated by a class peer. We were asked some of the people to observe, and they did not show. We have a new form. This is the new 20-page form that we need to fill out to get additional support when we need it. I understand the need to limit this support, but this was an emergency situation. And when we're dealing with children, we always need to be mindful that yes, we have rules, but at some times we need to really jump and do that. I only made 2 copies of that because it's a lot of paper. I'll give you the second set of it you can share. This is sets of suggestions I've been asking for support on since August to look at some problems, and the union brought that, and we're not getting a lot of movement. I'm asking that you please look at it. This is a folder downloaded from one school that is very organized on how to get support. These are the forms that the teachers have to fill out to get support. This is one set. I know you guys understand SB 100, but SB 100 is putting a big burden, and when we put all of our special ed kids in the gen ed, our teachers need support and they need training. The last line of the recommendations here is teaching the teachers how to deal with our kids. I'm begging, I'm pleading that our teachers get some support with dealing with special ed kids that are in their classrooms that they've never had before. I believe in mainstreaming, but not mainstreaming when we're not ready for it and when our teachers don't have what they need. Please, guys, listen and look at what I'm giving you. This is one set. This is one of each for everybody.
Ms. Gillen, I just have a clarifying question, so I do apologize. And obviously, it's not a back and forth. I just want to make sure I understand. Is the last documents that you're given, is that a school in Waukegan or an example of another school district that's doing something well?
That is one school in Waukegan that's done a great job of getting their paperwork together. But if you look at the first page, it has 15 ULRs to go here to do this and here to do this and fill out this form. And those are some of the forms that follow the 3 pages of directions.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarifying question, or that answer.
Okay. And I don't mean any disrespect to leave, but I've got to get out of here. I'm exhausted.
Happy holidays and start of vacation. Next name on the list is Ray Vukovic.
Good evening and happy holidays to all. In a few minutes, the board president will say a few words that he says at every board meeting regarding the consent agenda, and that it's items that are previously discussed and or non-controversial. I'd like to bring up item 8A, the district closure for the winter break. That is on there. And nowhere on the board docs that were provided to the public do I see anything showing a financial impact. Now, if you're going to give all 12-month employees additional days off, there's a financial impact to the district. And you know, you got a very good finance department here that spends hundreds and hundreds of hours putting together budgets and budget workshops and all of these things that are presented here. And here's something that just kind of came out in the last week and is now there. So how much is this going to cost? And yeah, I mean, all these folks, they do a great job and it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. But what are you going to do for the classroom teachers? What are you going to do for the paraprofessionals? I know they are off during this time, but they're the ones that are frontline with the students. Closing the district down for these 2 weeks, I don't think it's going to raise one reading score. It's not going to raise one math score. It's not going to have one more student graduate from Waukegan High School. But there is a cost to it. And you go later in the agenda, you're going to vote on the property tax levy. And you're looking to raise property taxes by 4.98%. Now, when you look back over the 50-year history of this school district, this district is receiving more money in federal and state dollars than they ever have. And you're still going to raise money or raise taxes. Now, I know that you're going to try to apply for a grant and all that, but you're still raising taxes. So you need to look at stuff. You have a budget, you stick to it. People take a job, they know they're going to have certain days off, they know they're going to have certain benefits. So, you know, just to do stuff at the last minute for one group kind of alienates another. And then you got a bigger group of taxpayers who say, wait a minute, you're raising my taxes tonight. Just food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. All right, we are now at our public hearing. So we are going to first have our open hearing on the WPS 60 e-learning plan. So I would like a motion to open the hearing.
Make a motion. We open the public hearing regarding the district's e-learning plan.
Motion by Ms. Hannah,
Second.
second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Isn't this where we just have discussion?
Yeah, well, we have to open it.
Oh, okay. Got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not there yet. Jump the gun.
All right, so all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are now in the open hearing.
Hi, good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, community and colleagues. Happy holidays to everyone. This evening, on behalf of the ASAP team, I'll be presenting on the e-learning plan that the district that we're seeking approval for. Can you grab the deck, Lee? There should be the attachment on items, the first item, I believe. Item A, there should be an overview. There should be a slide deck on there. There it is. Thank you. So first and foremost, what is e-learning? Just not to confuse e-learning with remote learning. A remote learning plan that we've had in place previously was developed in the event that the district would go full remote. During the pandemic, we utilized the remote learning plan. In the future, should the district have to go full remote, we would also utilize the remote learning plan. This plan is an e-learning plan. And this is according to section 10-20.56 of the school code. School districts may adopt a resolution utilizing e-learning in lieu of using emergency days. The number of e-learning days may not exceed the number of emergency days that have been previously approved in the calendar.
How many?
So if we look at, I'm getting there. So if we look at that, on our current calendar, we have 5 days maximum that we are allowed to use for emergency days. So the e-learning plan, in the event that we utilized all 5 days, would be in place for 5 days of emergency instruction per year. It's 5 days annual. This is a 3-year adoption. So at most, we would maximize 15 days utilizing this e-learning plan over the course of the 3 years. So what is the approval process? First step would be that the e-learning program has to be verified by the Regional Office of Education for the school district prior to us implementing the plan. Before that adoption, the school board must hold a public hearing, which is this evening's event, for initial proposal or renewal of the e-learning plan. The district must also publicize the plan 10 days prior to the hearing, and written or electronic notice must be provided to parents and staff. I did include some dates in there when the notice was published in the Lake County News Sun, as well as it was published, you don't have it on here, but it was published December 8th in Purdo Football. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Nick. And then we sent electronic notice to parents and staffs on December 7th. At the conclusion of the presentation this evening, there are some forms that are required to be signed by the superintendent and the board president. Those forms then are emailed to the Regional Office of Education. Once they verify that a public hearing was held and they look at the plan, then the plan is officially approved. So in terms of some of the general requirements for the e-learning proposal, there's our plan is attached to the board doc item, so there's a 36-page document in there that will give you all the details and the specifics of the plan. But in general, the plan essentially has to ensure that there's access for all students, ensure that their specific needs of all students are met, including special ed and English learners, and ensure that all mandates are still met using the e-learning program as adopted. The plan must also contain provisions designed to reasonably and practically accomplish the following. So the next several slides, you'll see essentially the criteria that are called for within the plan. Thank you. First and foremost, they must ensure and verify at least 5 clock hours of instruction as required for each student. We do have sample schedules that are on some subsequent slides, so you can kind of get an idea of what that would look like at the pre-K, elementary, middle, and high school level. Ensure access from home or other appropriate remote facility for all students participating, including computers, internet, and other forms of electronic communication. Ensure that non-electronic materials are made available to students participating in the program who do not have access to the required technology, or to participating teachers or students who are prevented from accessing the required technology. And then the next couple slides are just sample schedules, what it would potentially could look like in a pre-K setting, elementary setting, in a middle school setting, and a high school setting. So there's several schedules there you can look at for each of the different levels in the district. And I should note that this plan was developed and created in collaboration with union leadership and the collective bargaining agreements. I'm sorry, with the union leadership as part of our CBAs. So they were a part of this development of this process and this plan throughout the entire development of the plan. You can keep going, Lupley.
So Dr. Knott, all students have access to Google Classroom?
Yes.
Doctor,
Other-
can we just ask questions, or would you like us to wait until your presentation is over to ask them?
It's up to you. There's a lot of the details, like I said, are in that attached document. This is some of the general criteria that's required. So if you want, I can get through all the general criteria, and then if you have specific questions about how we're going to do that in Waukegan, we can speak to those if that works for you guys. Okay. Other criteria: ensure appropriate learning opportunities for students with special needs. Monitor and verify each student's participation, so in other words, their attendance. Address the extent to which student participation is within the student's control, time, pace, means of learning, etc. Provide effective notice to students and parents of guardians for the use of particular e-learning days, and provide staff students with adequate training for e-learning day participation. Also, ensure that all teachers and staff who are involved in the provisions of e-learning have access to any and all hardware or software that may be required for the program, and ensure an opportunity, as I mentioned before, ensure an opportunity for any collective bargaining negotiations with representatives of the school district that would be legally required, including all classifications of school district employees who are represented by the CBAs who would be affected in the event of an e-learning day. As I mentioned before, this was developed in collaboration with union leadership when we put the plan together. The last two slides, in terms of the criteria: review and revise the program as implemented to address any difficulties confronted. In other words, kind of giving us an opportunity to review it after its use to see if there's any modifications that may need to be made. Finally, ensure that the protocol regarding general expectations and responsibilities of the program is communicated to teachers, staff, and students at least 30 days prior to utilizing the e-learning plan. And then the timeline: should this resolution be adopted, this plan would go into effect September 1st of 2022 and would be valid again for 3 years through the 2024-2025 school year. ASAP will continue to collaborate with union leadership to provide ample notice to teachers and students prior to using this plan in the event of an emergency or inclement weather day. I believe that is it. Miss Anna.
Okay, so this plan has, well, I'm kind of asking a question, making a statement. This plan doesn't utilize our, like Asian Human Services, BAM, WOW. Is that correct? Because as I was going through this, I didn't see any mention
Correct.
of those services.
Correct. So this plan is, again, should school be called off for any inclement weather reason, and the entire district has to shut down. That this plan is developed for students and teachers to use during instances of that. So the activities that are in the plan would essentially mirror kind of what would happen in a classroom on a daily basis without those additional supports that you just provided, AHS and BAM, youth guidance, that would not be part of those 5 hours.
Right, and it is different. This e-learning plan is different than remote learning.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And, okay, wait, we would use remote learning, for example, if we had to shut down again because of COVID.
Correct. Yep, these are only for emergency days where the entire district has to close for whatever reason. Emergency, when you think of e-learning, don't think of an emergency plan. It's our emergency learning plan, essentially is what it is.
And in terms of, okay, if it's like an emergency, right? Like just say a winter day, okay? We usually get those emergency closures there. And so, we already know how the parents would get notification. And how would you all go about notifying all of the staff about today, emergency e-learning day? How do you all plan to implement that?
Sure, and I don't want to speak for Nick, but essentially, I think anytime that the district shut down due to an emergency day, like previously, when districts shut down, there's communication sent out from the director of public communications to all students, staff, parents, et cetera, notifying them the district would be closed for the day. So that same process would be in place.
And they would know automatically go to the e-learning plan.
Yeah, there's been some, I think Amanda can speak to it, but there's been some orientations that principals are leading their staffs through currently on, what this will look like in the event that we have to go to e-learning on a particular day. Teachers are being requested to set up their Google Classrooms in the event that we do have to utilize an e-learning day, so that there's materials available for students, that they can access them if possible. But all that's being done with the principals. Currently, we led the principals through an orientation training on the e-learning plan and how to communicate that and have a plan to communicate that with their staff. So in the event that the decision is made to close the district, people are prepared and ready to go. They know where to go, and they know what to do in terms of the e-learning plan. Ms. Gonzalez, I think you got a
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions, but it seems to kind of Ms. Hannah's point earlier, so for students, like the impact that this is gonna have, and for teachers, is that there's no snow day, no more. There's school at home in inclement weather days. So that's important, right? Because that's gonna change a lot of the expectation now for students. And maybe this is just like a logistical thing, but how does, so teacher calls off, they can't be on, or something happens and they're a part of this plan. How does subbing in this situation work? Like, what's our policy for getting, the sub all of these materials for when they have to jump in, and it just so happens that it's also inclement weather day?
Good question. In terms of the first part of your question, most districts are shifting to this format, where they're avoiding closing down the district for inclement weather or other related reasons, and they're using e-learning as a way to avoid using their emergency days. So
Yeah.
this isn't something that Waukegan's doing. This is something that most districts are entertaining.
adopting.
In terms of the subs, I'm not sure. I think Amanda can answer the question about how that came up.
Good evening. How we handled it when we had to make this kind of our norm back when we were doing remote learning this past year was that the teacher would share the Google Classroom link with their principal, assistant principal, and their instructional coach within their building, and that way, in the event that teacher is out sick or is unable to perform their duties on that particular day, have a day off already planned for a need, the principal, assistant principal, and or instructional coach could still open up that Google Classroom, help make sure that those links are accessible to students, parents, and potential substitute teachers that may be available on that particular e-learning day. The important part of the planning is that prior to utilization of any of these types of days for the upcoming school year, is that teachers spend time orienting their students to the Google Classrooms, which kids are used to pretty much for the most part at this point, where it's kind of a habit. But the teachers have a designated location in their Google Classroom just for instructional activities that would be needed to be completed on these particular emergency days. So students would know, if there's a snow day, I got to go to this folder, I need to work on this activity, and even if the teacher can't log on for whatever particular reason on that given day, the assignments are already there and the students know where to grab them if necessary.
I think the good news is we've had practice with this because of our remote learning pandemic. We've had practice kind of getting some of these things, kinks worked out and organized. So I don't want to say it's second nature, but I think our students have become quite comfortable with remote learning and looking, utilizing things from home, Google Classroom and other resources. So I think just giving refreshers on where that information is located, where the resources are, how they can access it is probably the biggest thing, and a lot of times they can probably take it from there.
Okay. One more question.
Yes, Ms. Hannah.
Dr. No. I got to go back to the substitutes, because we all know that we've got a lot of substitutes in our district. And the training, they need the training to make sure that the classroom instruction is consistent with what they have been getting. And yeah, I'm going to keep talking about sub-training. If they're in the classrooms, they need to operate and have the same resources, supports that all the other teachers receive, because whether we want them there or not, they're there and they're instructing our students, and they need to have those same supports and training, so that they can carry out the instruction for the students.
Yeah, noted, and that's definitely a difficult task. But yes, there is a need to have subs at least be familiar and knowledgeable with, at the very least, the platforms themselves, the Google platforms, and how they operate and work.
And let me just give you. I was a substitute in another district. They brought in everybody that was going to be a substitute, and we had in-services, so that we were not just walking in a classroom and we're there, don't know anything. And even the discipline part, substitutes need to be able to understand the discipline part, because they have to do that in the classroom. Okay, they're not babysitters. And so I think we need to, Dr. Norton, we need to look at that, because of the number of substitutes that we do have in the district.
Noted, Ms. Hannah. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to hit on what Ms. Hannah's saying as well. I think we have to, in this day and age, we do not do a good job of communicating with our subs. They don't have access to email. They can't get into our district resources. And I think we have to investigate. If we're going to use subs accurately, and they're going to be around for a long time, we have to create some kind of system where they can get in to our software and have access to our systems. Right now they don't. And that's really a problem for our subs. They don't know what's going on in the district. They're not feeling a part of it. I think that may be a reason why we lose a lot of them, and they go elsewhere where they can feel more a part of the district that they're belonging to, plus they even get paid more. So those are serious concerns we need to work at if we're going to make this system work.
That's right.
And then the other thing is to make sure our kids continuously get some updates and know ahead of time to take, especially the littler ones, to take those computers home with them. The bigger kids probably carry them back and forth. The little ones maybe not necessarily. We don't want them out there. We have to have advance warning. So, we usually get advance warning of inclement days. The kids could be told, make sure these computers go home with you today, because you might need them for the next couple days.
Absolutely correct, Mr. Riddle. Some of the things that we are working on with principals again, this is for the upcoming school year, for not right now, is to make sure that students are getting in the habit of bringing their device back and forth. Principals are also budgeting for additional Chromebook power strip chargers, because having one at home and one at school would probably be the best and safest bet, making sure students have that charger no matter where they are, so they can leave it at home and still be able to be on their device if necessary. So those are some of the contingency plans that principals are working through.
Good. And we've got plenty of time yet.
Yes.
This isn't going to take place until next September.
Correct.
So we've got some time out to work all these bugs out. So thank you. I think it's great that we're moving ahead on this.
there's no other questions, thank you. Oh, Lucy, sorry.
I have a ton for you.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry there, but I'm going to hit you with them. Can you just clarify and just give a little bit of clarity what constitutes an emergency day?
I think there's a variety of reasons. Ultimately, what defines it is if the entire district is shut down. So if it's just a water main break at a particular school, that would not constitute an e-learning day. All right, that's just impacting that particular building, right? So we're talking about something that would cause the entire district to close. Inclement weather. Really, most of them are a lot of times weather related, so I don't really know what other examples there would be for e-learning besides weather related days.
Polar vortex, 10
Yeah.
inches of snow.
Cold
Blackouts,
temperatures,
you know,
yeah,
like
cold temperatures, that kind of thing.
I mean, too hot.
Too hot, that was one. And again, because this Board of Education has air conditioned the majority, I mean, all school classrooms, that wouldn't be one, but it could, because it's the heat.
So keep in mind, this is for the entire district. If the entire district closes, then we would go to the e-learning day.
So thank you for that clarification so that we have that on record a little bit. But I'd like to also understand that if we go through with this program allowing e-learning, right? Do we have to use the e-learning day in lieu of snow days, or can we still opt to say, you know what, this is still going to be a snow day?
Good
District
question.
is shut down.
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I can find a remote, but I do think it's a district's option of what, if they want to use an e-learning day or if they want to use a district closed day, I guess would be, I think it's a district's option, but I can clarify from Roe on that. I think just because you submit a plan doesn't necessarily mean you're required to use that plan in the event of a district closure. I think it's just having a plan, the plan in place should the district want to utilize e-learning in that particular case. And remember, we only have 5 days that we could use for this purpose. So in the event polar vortex years ago where, there was a week or a week and a half of sub-zero temperatures, the district could potentially close for 2 or 3 days plus use the plan for up to 5 days. So.
And just in case, as you clarify with Roe, can we also include that statement at least so that we have that caveat in our plan to Roe that, we'd like to have that option to still utilize our snow days or emergency days in lieu, and not use an e-learning day? Sure.
So, you just prompted me to look back at the school language in the school code, and it says districts may by adopted resolution utilize e-learning days in lieu of emergency. So it's saying that we may use those. So my interpretation of that is that it's an option, but I'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you. So I have been reading some studies and articles, and they speak about allowing for snow days to occur or allowing for these emergency days to occur because so like for example, if it's too cold, right, and we're asking the entire student population to use their at-home internet. Sometimes at-home internet does not work when it's too cold, right, at particular degrees, or blackouts, right? I mean, we can't. I mean, that's
Sure.
just kind of using at our discretion. It's also said too that sometimes these emergency days is very stressful, and so by not, by using these emergency days and not allowing for a school day to occur, it relieves some of that stress a little bit, and it's helpful mental health and so on and so forth. So I know that the plan today is potentially for an e-learning, but I'm asking the team, is the recommendation from the team is to go through with this option to have e-learning days in lieu of snow days?
I think it would depend on the circumstance. I think the superintendent ultimately makes that call on what type of day she would want to use. But again, I think I will verify, but I do believe it's an option that we have as a plan B, should we want to use it. I know as a youngster, it was always great to see your school district name on the bottom of the scrolling screen.
I'm not sure
that
what
you were
they're going
closed.
to say anymore.
It made you really happy, but yeah.
Okay.
And the reality, the reality is we really don't close. Since I've been here, we really have never closed a district. Outside of the polar vortex that we faced, but you never know what we're going through. So we just need to be prepared for anything that may hit us as we've seen through the pandemic.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, one day like you said, to have that discretion, okay, it's good to add that on. We have to add it on at the end of the year. If it becomes more than 1 or 2 days, what happens if we add that on at the end of the year? It resets the timeline for summer programming as well. And there are union deadlines and timelines that need to occur. Otherwise, it really throws off the schedule. And so that's something else to consider. I mean, there is research on either side of it, but I do think it's important to note that this will help to preserve our calendar as is, so that the planning that we're doing for summer programming remains intact. But ultimately, it is at the discretion of the superintendent in consultation with the Board of Education. But this is an option to ensure that we maintain our schedule to the best of our ability, so it does not impact any kind of summer programming or any other calendar issues.
Yep, and so thank you for that. And as I'm just going to keep on throwing these questions at you, right? So one of the few last ones here is, and this is coming from a teacher's perspective here, so I'm just going to read that here. Is the district expecting for teachers to keep the Google Classroom up to date with their lessons, since this could be a last minute, like 5:30 in the morning decision to go e-learning?
So I think the way, I can let Amanda speak to the details of it, but I think the way that we envisioned this was, when you were a teacher in the classroom, you always had an emergency sub-plan in place in case, in the event you were sick, you, God forbid, got in a car accident on the way to school or something that they could turn to. So the Google Classroom kind of serves that same purpose. It's an emergency plan that's there, available in the event of an e-learning notification.
Thank you for that. And just to ensure in regards to the hotspots, this would also include hotspots in homes if need be for the next few years that these plans are out there for.
It would, yeah, I'm not sure where, it definitely would. They would have to have access to Wi-Fi, so we would have to revisit, I don't know the process that we went through in terms of.
Dr. Cuevas was part of the planning, the whole part, all of the meetings that we had this past fall. So Dr. Hillary and Dr. Cuevas, since they collaborated this past remote learning timeframe that we had to go through, they're aware of the need for hotspots and Chromebooks and supporting students and getting what they need. So they were definitely part of the planning process for this.
And in addition to that, that's something that we approved, or that the board approved, I believe 2 meetings ago, was to replenish our supply of hotspots. And that was in alignment with the planning for this. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Those were my immediate questions, Board President.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Riddle.
Can I just want to clarify, Dr. Nault, this is strictly an emergency plan for weather-related closures. Has nothing to do with if, for instance, we had to close a school because of a high incidence of COVID, right?
Correct.
That would be under another auspice entirely different from
Correct.
this weather-related that needs the approval of ISB and stuff, right? Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
I'm gonna leave these forms with the board president that we got to send to Rose.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
So do we have, and I'll pause here.
From the audience.
Yep, that's what I'm doing next. Any questions from the audience as it relates? This is a public hearing. So again, this is our e-learning plan. The board will be voting to either adopt or not adopt after this hearing is closed. So I want to make sure that we give the opportunity. All right, do we have a motion to close the hearing?
Mr. Riddle, I so move we close the hearing.
So motion by
Second.
Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Leguizamo. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Hearing is now closed.
Okay, 'cause I wanted to ask the question, but that's okay.
Okay. We are now at 7C, approval of WPS 6E e-learning plan. Superintendent.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the resolution in the form presented adopting the district's e-learning plan substantially presented during the public hearing.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve this motion as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Hammond.
I also have a comment.
This is a good plan. However, I want to make sure that, as I spoke earlier regarding our substitutes, that they are put into this plan and are giving training for carrying out this and other duties. So, yes, please make sure that we are addressing our substitutes.
Can I say my comment now? Are you done, Ms. Anna? Okay. So I also agree that I appreciate the work of ASAP and Dr. Nolt's team and everyone who's participated in collaborating on this, because I think that a plan like this is more and more necessary in the world that we're living in. Our climate is changing. It's only going to keep changing. And what I worry about, though, in going digital and incorporating more of that now that we've been through remote learning with COVID, and all of our kids, especially the youngest ones, are now growing up in a place that embraces technology. What I worry about is if home is not okay, that you fall further behind, right? Those days that inclement weather gets called and now you have to do more work at home. And I think that the work is there to provide people the flexibility to have these kinds of days, but I also want to make sure that the students concerns that were raised because of remote learning, the staff's concerns because of remote learning are on a daily basis whenever we decide to implement this being considered, because I don't want to hear mom and dad saying, why is my kid not being marked as part of the classroom if I logged him in or her in or whoever. I can't log in today. Can I make up my work? And how do I prove that I tried to log in but it wasn't working, So I support the plan. I just want to make sure that we do everything in our power to educate the community about it when it happens. And I know our team will work on that, but that's, something I want to keep in mind the more that we, create this kind of hybrid structure when things like this happen, inclement weather or closure day.
Got it. So what, go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So I echo what was just said up here from my fellow board members. And I know that it gives us a little bit more time to just kind of fine tune or just define in the plan about what is going to be included. Just really quick, I just like some fine tuning in there in regards to what grading will look like in that plan. Will students be penalized or not penalized? What does that look like really? So just kind of inserting that in there so that we know and have it in writing. And then the other thing is, and I know this was big during remote learning, is also putting in that plan that parents have that opportunity to call in as well as for a sick day if possible, right? And so what that looks like, just fine tuning some stuff. There was a lot of lessons learned that we had during COVID, during remote learning. And so just some of those things I think can be included in that as we have that in writing. So I appreciate the work, great stuff, and great contingency plan. So thank you for that, Board President. Those were all my comments.
Thank you. The only thing, so just for takeaways, is we want to ensure that it addresses the subs. We want to ensure that, again, we use it as an option and we weigh that in when it makes sense to use it and when we don't. And then Ms. Leguizamo wanted to have language around how it would be impacted with grading. Okay. And if it does pass and it is approved, just communicating to stakeholders, we want to be constantly training, because if we have to use this, I mean, there's no snow in December,
Right.
but if we have to use it, we want them to make sure that they're prepared, nobody's caught off guard, so there be a continuous training around that. With that, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Roll call vote. Actually, this one is, no, I'll take roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Martian?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes. Motion is approved. Item carries. We are now at the consent agenda. Just a reminder, these are items that should have been previously discussed and/or non-controversial. Any board member can request that any item be held over for any reason, and so I'll open the floor up. Does anybody want to vote on any of these items separately?
Well, I got some comments.
So I'm gonna take that as a yes. Because otherwise, you can ask, we can take a motion in a second, but it's the consent. So we either have to open it and
I'm
then
not asking, I just have comments regarding,
but
the
so you
district
don't want to
closure.
vote it on separately? That's my biggest question. If the answer to
Yes.
your questions will make you decide to vote yes or no, then we should vote on it separately, because
yeah,
voting
vote-
no.
Yeah,
Okay,
take that, we vote on, item A separately.
yes, ma'am. And I guess there's only 2 items, so let's do that. So we're gonna take item 8A, district closure, winter break. Superintendent, if you can read the recommended action.
It is recommended that the Board of Education ratify the superintendent's closure of the district for a winter break with the exception of already scheduled facility rentals, athletic, special events, and capital projects, and resulting in additional 4 days of time off or floating holidays for 12 months staff otherwise required to work during this time period.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the recommended action of the superintendent's motion.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, let me make a comment first. You know, our institution, educational institution, has to continue to move, okay? And I have to harken back to the past, and usually I am used to the whole district not being shut down, and that 12-month employees did work. They had the holidays off, and maybe a few days before the holidays and so forth. And so this is really something new to me. And I just want to know, during those days that are in between Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's, okay? And the days after New Year's, because we don't come back until, what, January 5th? Okay, those are regular work days for everybody else. And we have a lot of stuff in the hoppers that could be being worked on while the students are not in attendance. And I'm opposed to the district shutting down completely. And I gotta say this, I'm sorry, people are still getting their salary, regardless of whether they're here or not. And to me, that's a little bit taxpayer questionable. And so I cannot really support a total district closure, because we have a lot of work and a lot of things that we need to still work out, work around, and get put in place because of all of this. So I just had to make that statement.
I can make another comment too, because I actually agree with Miss Hannah. In regards to a lot of school projects and, you know, keeping the school district going, I think it is important that we're all hands on deck. But to be quite honest, knowing some of the staff already, y'all already do that in a healthy degree, and I will say that. I'm the same way at my job. And so when we tell y'all to take a break because you need to come back at 6 a.m. and keep doing your job because you need to service more people, I get how, you know, always having your mind wired to be working can sometimes burn you out, and then you're ineffective for our kids and for, you know, the peers that you're working with, right? So my stance is that we've been through a lot. You all deserve a break. Our families deserve a break. Our kids deserve a break. Our cleaning staff, our maintenance workers, they need those additional days, as well as floaters, from what I'm understanding, because they will be in our facilities still cleaning. This is, I think, a reward for the people who are in our buildings doing that work 12 months out of the year. And I don't think that the work stops, right? But I feel like because we're in an age that just embraces technology, we're working more hours than we actually think we are. And sometimes that makes us more ineffective when we're actually trying to get stuff done. So we need to know how to rest, and we need to know how to get prepared and go into the new year refreshed, so that we don't carry the, you know, the burdens and the turmoil that have happened, you know, in last week or last year's whatever event situation may be. So that's why I am a proponent of this. I value time off for everyone who works with me, for me, or whatever, because I think that that's something that we all deserve, and that's how we value your labor, right? Especially for the students most impacted by your work.
My comments?
If you would like to provide them, Mr. McBride.
Well, just to echo your sentiments, it was a no-brainer for me when I heard it, because the circumstances that's going on around us now with the COVID and with so many other issues within the district. We've heard staff come in and complain about the kids and having a hard time. And to me, there's a such thing called detox. Sometimes you need to detox sometime away from some of the issues that you're dealing with, including myself. I need some detox period just from coming in here every other Tuesday. I mean, and having to deal with the conflict that I have to deal with coming from out there. I need detox period, you know. But I wasn't when I heard it, I thought it was a blessing to give the staff the time off, and I haven't heard not one staff member complain about the time off. Actually, they are actually appreciating it. And I want to say this: we're not the only institution that's looking out for their staff. There's other institutions around that, including the township, which I'm a board member of. We showed our staff some kind of appreciation and gave them some time off, as well as a bonus. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that's what you do when people are doing things that for you, and you show some kind of appreciation. And it wasn't my idea; it was the superintendent. But I applaud her for having a heart to be able to look out there and say, "Well, we need to give you something." Just because of all the hard work that you done put in and all the times that you done come and gave of yourself, I feel like they deserve it. Simple as that. And I would never at any time regret that I voted for that to happen. And thank you.
Brandon.
Ms. Wozniak.
Do we, by any chance, Gwen, have Ms. Polk, have a number that can be put to this?
Board President, board members, superintendent, community members, we did the analysis, and for the 12-month employees, it's approximately $100,000 a day.
A day?
So it's
A day. So it would be $400,000.
that, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, wait. Okay, $100,000
$400,000.
a day
Total 400.
For 12-month employees.
for 12-month employees to have that.
1
4
day.
days off.
Wait, I'm looking.
Literal money, it really isn't because we would
From
pay the
December to-
salaries anyway. But because they're not utilizing, or we're not utilizing a leave of any type, the value of that is approximately $100,000.
But it's not an extra $400,000 we're paying.
It's not an actual.
Yeah.
And it could spread over years.
Right.
Say
It's only,
again?
okay. The value of it is the leave day. And that's the approximate value of the leave day. Because we would pay the salary anyway, so it's not literal salary money. But it's the value of a leave day, present day, because they could use it this year, next year, years later. But it's the approximate value of a leave day for existing 12-month employees.
So I do want to make sure in layman's terms, nobody is getting physically paid or getting financially paid.
Additional money.
Additional monies. But they do, and again, full transparency, they get those 4 days that they could use later on. So when we're
That
saying a
is correct.
$400,000 cost, that's not a check that we're writing or additional
That is
money or a
correct.
bonus that anybody is getting. But again, and I do want to thank, and I know I said I wouldn't, but Mr. Vukovic, for your comments. It's because that was one in which I'd be completely honest, I almost considered holding over, but they had run the analysis and they did do it. I know how I feel about it. I echo the sentiments as I believe I heard from Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. McBride, but I would add in that I do think everybody deserves a break. And I know this is always the one thing that we talk about with CREEP, but if we do it for one group, I do think that we as a board do need to explore and examine what we do for all. And so that would be my stance. And so I think it's the right thing to do. We're doing it now because it's a good thing for the holidays, so that people can take this time off to reset, recharge, and come back ready to go. Our 10-month employees and everyone else already gets these days. But I do think that we want to look at what it impacts them. I know Evanston closed the day after Thanksgiving. I know Cahokia closed 2 days prior to they anticipated to go on break, the entire district, including personnel. It is happening throughout the entire state, not just in Waukegan, where people burnout is real. And I want to counter that. So I will support this motion, but I also would want us to look at doing something for our other employees as well. And then the superintendent, I would just like to hear from you as to why you would be making this recommendation to the Board of Education.
I definitely can do so. I want to state that this is not anything new. We have closed before. And Ms. Hannah, 4th of July, remember when you gave me the recommendation prior to 4th of July or the day after, that we should close the district, and it was 1 day, and we did close the district outside. Right, it was 1 day. So I just want you to know that this is not unprecedented. We have done this before. One thing, though, is our custodial staff tends not to be able to participate in this because there's always work to do, and we found a way that they could participate in this. However, it's not only staff burnout. I have no doubt that all of our administrators throughout our district are going to be working during the holiday break. They work on Saturdays, they work on Sundays, they get here at 7 o'clock in the morning and they stay to 9 to 10 o'clock on board meetings, which is over a 12-hour day. So it's not a matter of have they put in the time, they have put in double the time throughout the year for this leave. So for me, it's just saying thank you for everything you do. Thank you for going above and beyond. Thank you for always putting our district and our students first. And thank you for never giving up on District 60. And they need this time to rest. During COVID, during the pandemic, our team has not had no downtime. None. And many of them have not even taken vacation days. So this is really my directive to them, as I had, there was a meeting this week where I came and spoke to them, and they are to get some rest. and it is a directive. I need them fresh and bright when we come back. We have to come back really hard. We have a lot of plans. We have summer school. We have to close the COVID slide, and I need them energized. And look at them. Guys, you look great, but they're tired. And all of them. And I'm very excited that our custodial staff, who has not had any time off because of the amount of projects that we have done in Waukegan since my arrival, and under the leadership of Mr. Moulton, Otis, and Kevin, and everyone else, the custodial staff has not benefited from this. And they also need to be recognized for the great work that they're doing across our district. So for me, this is a win-win for the board, it's a win-win for the students, and we're talking about 4 days. They would normally be off. I mean, so they would come in for 2, and then be off another 2, and then the amount of days and come back. So for me, they deserve it.
Okay, say that again, Superintendent.
I can't give you the exact days. Is it written in the thing? But there's days off. They have to come in like 2 days, and then they're off 3 days. I mean, you could look at it. It's not 4 in conjunction. It also saves on cleaning. I mean, there's other ways we're going to save money, you know, cleaning, lighting, etc.
Because, okay, and reason I asked for clarification, Superintendent, because it says from Wednesday, December 22nd through Tuesday, January 4th.
But some of those days, they're off already. So it's an extra 4 days. So they're off some of those days already.
Right.
So, and they have to work 4 days during that time frame. And we're saying that they can stay home during that time frame.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
So I'd also like to just make a comment in regards to when I started talking about this as well. I was hoping that it would impact more like our teachers, our frontline workers. I am a proponent of what is being presented here today, but I also echo what our board president just mentioned in regards to offering this up to other staff members, other employees in our school district. If we're offering it for one group, I'd like to see it extended down a little bit more as well. So I know that there's some stuff that needs to be massaged and worked on in order to even make something like that happen. But you know, I'm just wanted to just make that statement here formally and show that I'm advocating for that as well. So thank you for that, Board President.
And I don't want to hold this up because we got 2 other meetings tonight, and it's already 7 o'clock. But I do want to mention that even in the private sector, right, is at BCU, we started to acknowledge an employee day. And I work on the front lines. I'm a branch manager. The banks have to be open. How did we get around that? Is October, or what we refer to as Indigenous Peoples Day, what some refer to as Columbus Day, was not an official holiday. So what we started to do is, while it's not a recognized bank holiday, it is a staff appreciation day that doesn't impact, you know, our members. And so there may be some creative opportunities throughout the year that will allow us to do things like that. And I would encourage us, I do think those days, they matter. And so people do take a job knowing how many vacation days they have. They know that, they plan around it. I do think that it would be a nice gesture given the last 2 years and the fact that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. So with that, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had comment. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
I love all our staff. I know everyone's tired. And I support the staff. Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We are now at item 8B, interim board hearing officer appointment. Superintendent, if you'd be so kind as to read the recommendation.
It is a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the appointment of an interim board hearing officer for student discipline matters as recommended by the General Counsel.
Mr. Riddle, I make a motion, we approve the recommended action the superintendent has just read.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions on the motion?
question.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
A question for our General Counsel here, Ms. Vanderbroek. Do you already have a proposed timeline as to when we would, like the search process for a more permanent role?
Yes, I'm hoping to tomorrow issue a request for information to some individuals who've been brought to my attention, and then we will look at moving that forward in the month of January.
Thank you for that. Those are all my questions, Board President.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We're now at 9A, projected tax year 2021 aggregate levy. Superintendent?
It is a recommendation that the Board of Education authorize and adopt the estimated property tax levy for tax year 2021 and the Truth in Taxation Resolution, and authorize the administration to submit the approved levy and Truth in Taxation Resolution to the Lake County, Illinois County Assessor's Office.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we accept the recommended action of the superintendent, make a motion to that effect.
Mr. Riddle, so moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions on the resolution? I mean, on the motion?
Question.
Question, Ms. Leguizamo?
Sorry, I'm just bringing it up here on my screen. This question here, yes, is for Ms. Polk. Thank you, Ms. Polk. I apologize for that. But I just wanted to clarify, right?
Okay.
I'm looking at the projected extension. Do we still have the intention of potentially abating dollars back? Okay, I just wanted to clarify. So what this is being shown today is a increase than what it was the previous year.
Yes,
The past 2 years, we have kept that leveled.
yes.
And so I was just making sure, because I didn't see it in this form here, that we had the intention of abating dollars back. And that's a contingency plan for hoping, number one plan, that we get that grant.
That is correct. We would have to abate the over $8 million, and again, we would only get 90% of that total, and the district would lose the rest in terms of cash from the state. But we would have the ability to use that entire amount in our tax base for the next tax year. What we have here before you tonight for adoption is the levy, not the extension.
Oh, okay.
We'll get the extension in March or April, and we'll be able to reduce it. However, because we'll have more information relative to if we won the tax relief grant or not.
And even if we don't win the tax relief grant,
We could adjust.
That's where the abatement comes into play.
and this is what, and I mean, and this is a big one for me, in that we are in a pandemic. We would see, based on the projections and what was there, that most taxpayers in Waukegan would see a decrease with some of the bonds being paid off, and we have kept flat over the last 2 years. But I know that the county has remained flat. I also know that the city of Waukegan has remained flat. And even with us remaining flat, my fear is that with home values and the EAV going up in the way that it has, is that taxpayers could see an increase. Even if we hold flat, your tax bill could go up if your home is now worth more than what it was a year ago. And so while I will, of course, support this measure, we've done it routine. Every year we extend, and then we come down and we readjust. I want to make my intent clear is that I would hope that we get the grant. But if we don't get the grant, I would still like us to, when we actually extend, to hold steady. But that would be a decision for the board. Tonight, this is what we're doing. It gives us, as Ms. Polk has talked me to understand flexibility. We don't know what's coming, and so I will accept that. Is this a reason that they're rendering awards and reporting is because they are giving us sound financial information. But I do know, and I want to make at least my intent clear to the taxpayers, is that I hope that we get this grant. I hope that we get all the resources that we can, because even with the unprecedented amount of money that Waukegan Public Schools has gotten, according to the Illinois State Report Card, we are still only at 68% adequacy. Right? So we are only funding our schools at 68% of what the state of Illinois says it actually costs to run our schools. And so while taxes are huge, and I get why everybody's concerned, and even with this influx of money, it's more than we've had, but it's still not enough. So I do want to go on record with saying I understand both and it's temporary. Ms. Hannah, thank you for reminding it, is that we have to, but that another reason why we need to be good stewards. So all of the comments are legit, is it's more than we've ever had, it's still not enough, and we don't know how long it'll be here. So I would like to, for as long as possible, continue to give taxpayers a break, but I am going to support this motion and hope that the other board members would too.
Right.
Thank you,
Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, I'd like to just clarify or reemphasize what the board president just said too, including the fact that the district has paid off 2 of our bonds. And so with this EAV, if we did have to keep this amount, which we haven't decided yet, we're just putting it on the table, it would be flat. We wouldn't be taxing.
It would be a reduction we're projecting, because we don't know what the actual numbers are going to be.
Right.
But based upon including bond and interest. But
Yes.
typically when we levy, we don't include bond and interest. But if we were to, there would be a reduction, because we had about a $7 million annual payment.
Right.
Because of those 2 bonds, but having paid them off, we have about $4 million.
Thank you.
So that's huge.
Right, that is huge. Thank you.
Good.
So we're being good stewards as best we can with what we have to work with, and as the board president said, even that is not enough.
Yes, and thanks to the Board of Education, if you remember a few years ago, we refinanced the bonds and we were able to reduce the payments and get them paid off quickly.
Thank you, Ms. Pope.
And could, Ms. Pope, could you also remind everyone that the bonds that we paid off from 2001.
I think it was 2016. I don't remember the actual years. 2010, yeah.
And
2001 and 2010.
2010,
Yeah.
yeah. And so now we're done with that.
Yes.
Yes, and we held steady regardless of the payments.
Correct.
For those bonds, and you know, I'm going to contribute that to, you know, the financing department, you and your team, you know, and you know, kudos
With the help
to
of Attorney Harding and Elizabeth Hennessy, who
Yes.
advises
Hennessy,
us, and they watch it. And we knew that we had balloon payments that were coming up that were huge,
Right.
upwards of $12 to $14 million, and we sought their advice to bring that down to an
Right.
appropriate level, and we were
Right.
able to do that, save money, and pay them off quickly.
And where's our rating? Our rating.
We're an A rating.
I was just
Shout it.
I'm very proud of
I
that.
didn't hear you.
Very proud of that. Standards and Poor's has maintained our financial rating.
And-
That's huge. Yes.
At A, plus A, triple A.
We're not AAA yet, but we're working towards that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And like I say, I attribute that to
The entire team.
the
Yes,
entire
and the Board of
team.
Education Superintendent as well.
Yes, SBB.
SBB?
So what is it? Evidence-based.
Evidence-based funding has
Yes.
assisted us, yes.
Yes.
So we do have a motion, we have a second, we've had comments. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. All right, next we got purchases and contracts.
It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the use of emergency life safety funds for water main repairs at Jack Benny Middle School. The estimated cost is $22,500.
Mr. Riddle, I make a motion that we approve the recommended action of the superintendent.
Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We are now at 11. I'm going to ask for the second time that we take A and B together unless there are any objections. Do we have a motion to approve items 11A and 11B?
Mr. Riddle, I so move we approve items 11A and 11B.
Superintendent, if you'd be so kind as to
Second.
read both, we got a motion and a second, but both recommended actions. I apologize.
It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments and reclassification and accept the resignations and retirements as found on schedules F971, L917, G629, and L918. Can you please go to the next one? It is also recommended that the Board of Education approve the attendance of 2 employees from Human Resource Department to be determined to attend the Society for Human Resource Management Annual Conference in New Orleans from June 12 to June 15, 2022, at an estimated cost of $3,500 per individual, which includes registration, airfare, lodging, and per diem.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
We don't yet know who the 2 employees are going to be.
Good evening, members of the board, member of the public. The reason for that is in June, and we are looking for authorization to make the registration now because it's a very expensive registration for the conference. And in June is critical for us because of the recruitment. So depending on the schedule of our recruitment efforts during the summer, then we will see if I can attend or if a combination of me or 2 of my employees can attend on behalf of the district.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for that, Mr. Figueroa. We got a first and we got a second to approve.
Oh, comment? Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You okay?
No, I just wanted to be able to, because now would be time to mention about the substitutes, right? Or no?
No, I'm sorry. So right now we are at items 11A and 11B. We got a first and a second. Questions and comments. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. And I don't know, Ms. Hannah, again, this was supposed to be an expedited meeting considering it's a special meeting, and it's 7:18 and we still have 2. So did you have something that you needed to say this evening?
Yeah, I just want us to put some things for future meetings.
So I know there was one that was requested which related to cell phones. If there's anything additional, same process, just reach out to either Nick or I and we can make sure that's put on there for future topics.
Okay, I really need to talk about this bathroom vandalism
So I think,
in our schools. These TikTok
again, do you want to
challenges.
talk about it tonight? Is it before break, or is this something that can be discussed, or you can reach out to Nick and we can put it on as a conversation topic?
Yeah, it needs to, it needs to, well, we're out of school now, so we don't have to worry about it right now. But we do need to talk about this. I talked with Deputy Superintendent Moulton about this, and because this is serious, what's going on. And so I don't know, I guess maybe it's up to the board if they want to briefly talk about it.
Not tonight.
I
I think it is
personally,
important.
I don't want to. I also would rather hear it in our PTAC meetings, which you are open to come to, Ms. Hannah, because we talk about discipline.
No, I understand. It's not, it's the whole thing, and it's just not for PTAC, it's for the district.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
No, if you definitely want to have a board conversation, I'm glad to put that on the agenda,
Would
and
you
maybe we
please?
can have PTAC present on their thoughts as far as the committee, and then the board can discuss. And I would say too, and the only reason I like to have notice is because then we can come prepared with thoughts. It's
Right.
because just to launch into the conversation, and I don't have any basis as to how prevalent the issue is it happening, what's already happening. I'd like to do that research, but I thank you for bringing up the topic, and we can definitely,
And-
at our first board meeting,
And cell phones.
that's already on there. So that when you, like I said, we go through the process, we can have those, so
Okay.
you request it, and that is already going to be put down.
And second semester assemblies. And now, that may be something with PTAC, but also I'm asking that we take and we reacclimate our students at the beginning of second semester in a group by grade levels, particularly at our middle schools and our high schools, so that we could kind of get our schools back in the control of the adults.
Thank you for those, Ms. Hannah. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, second by Mr. McBride. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. I am going to ask that we take just a quick 5-minute break before we start our next meeting. All in favor, I said aye. Any opposed, nay. Meeting is now adjourned, and if we can meet back 7:28. 1st, 2021 Operational Services Committee meeting. Roll call vote, please. I mean, roll call.
Mr. Riddle, call your name.
Yes, present.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Here.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Present.
Mr. Ewing?
Present. So we do have all board members here. I would, we're now at item 3, approval of meeting minutes for the November 16, 2021 OSC meeting. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Riddle, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. We are now at information. Deputy Moulton?
Thank you, Board President Ewing. Good evening, board members, staff, and community. So we do have one information item for you this evening. It is the emergency amendment authorization for preferred meals, which is a change in rate to their current reimbursement rate for our students for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. This is information this evening because we recently received this request from the vendor on Friday. We are currently reviewing it with the administration as well as the legal department. But we wanted to put this on your radar before we go on break, because if we approve of this request and provide a recommendation either that matches this or something that's modified, we do want to act as quickly as possible and bring it back at the first January board meeting.
Could I ask a question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Moulton, I'm glad you're going to review that. I'm just wondering, have we ever done this in the past? Have we ever modified a contract for a vendor even though costs might have gone up?
So I can't speak specifically and say no, Mr. Riddle, for our food service vendor because we're a national school lunch program.
Right.
I do not recall us, and then speaking with Ms. Williams, do not recall us ever doing this. However, because of the hardships of the vendor, they're making this request and they have a waiver to do this. We get reimbursed and we are charged per meal given. So if they give out one meal for a week, you know, their rate is the same, but their costs are the same as well. If they give out 1 million meals, then their payment from us goes up. So since they stuck with us during the pandemic, you know, their meal distribution went down, even though we did a great job transporting on buses. We still weren't doing our regular daily volume. And right now, because of supply chain shortages and challenges, as we expressed at the last OSC meeting, their costs have gone up significantly, and hence this waiver. And it does go through June 30th, 2022. This would not go into effect beyond that time period.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it's just for a short time. All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
and nothing retroactive here. This is essentially for the spring semester.
Thank you, sir.
And so this will not impact the renewal contract when it's time to renew the contract. This kind of will be null and void, or will these prices still be included, I guess, in the specifications for bids?
Yeah, so this will not impact next school year. This only impacts the current school year.
Right, right. And I'm just trying to see when their contract is up for renewal.
Yeah, their contract is up this year, Ms. Hannah. This is the last year of their current contract.
And I guess to follow up to Ms. Hannah's, so we do this, then the option would be, right, the choice is to either allow them to submit a, you know, we've extended, or to go out for bid would be the two options that they.
Yeah, the option would be to extend for 1 year with this current vendor, Preferred Mills, or to do an RFP process for food services starting next school year. We would like to maintain our community eligibility provision with the National School Lunch Program, and we would be doing another multi-year contract if another vendor were to win a bid process if we went that route.
And we're still provision 2.
We are. That has not changed.
All right. Everything else listed is under reports. So I do want to shout out this grant. Don't know if you want to speak to it.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ewing. So earlier this semester, we informed the Board of Education we would be applying for an ISB maintenance grant for paving at Brookside campus to finish that parking area. That's also something we brought up to the Capital Improvement Committee with the assistance of Finance, Ms. Tate, Operations. We applied for this grant. We received it. The work has not been completed yet, but we did apply for it in anticipation of doing it next school year, this upcoming summer.
Okay.
So we do have the $50,000 to credit towards that project when we complete it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Tate, for all you do.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Quick question in regards, since we're on our grant title here. I was listening in at the city council meeting or the committee meeting, and they indicated that they're going to be applying for grants citywide in regards to infrastructure upgrades and so on and so forth. Are we partnering with the city of Waukegan in regards to those grants, or have you guys had those discussions, those preliminary discussions?
We've had some discussions. We obviously need to have several more discussions to make sure we're partnering appropriately. The last time that they did some civil work as far as the sidewalks and curbs and roads, we did some partnerships, but we need to have more of those discussions as well as with the Park District for their capital plan.
Yeah,
So those are ongoing.
Yeah, I believe there was, that this is already funded. I think it was like 2.5 billion or something like that, that was specifically funded. I don't remember if it was for Illinois or how it was, but just wanted to make sure that we have that on their radar. We get to those discussions with them, and then we start those conversations. Because I know that the city is going to be working on the sewage system, which costs, what was it, 40 million, something like that, give or take. So, yeah, thank you for that, Board President.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will just go on record and say, with not just the intergovernmental committee, but just conversation that has been ongoing, is that we do have a productive working relationship with the city, and so where there are opportunities that exist and where coordination efforts make sense, I believe that this board and the administration would be definitely willing to work together. So as we hear opportunities, as they hear opportunities, we hope that we are sharing resources and coordinating projects. Everything else, we have item B, which is the student activity and convenience accounts are there. Schedule of investments, which is another kudos. That was something that we did 3 years ago, and that has paid dividends. And then we have the treasurer's report, which has been presented for your consideration.
And Mr. Moulton, Board President, said that the topic regarding the bathroom vandalism is going to be at a future board meeting for discussion.
Perfect. With that, I'd like for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. McBride, second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. We will get our student achievement. All right, I'd like to call to order the December 21st, 2021 Student Achievement Meeting for Waukegan Public School Board of Education. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Present?
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Present.
Mr. Ewing.
Here, so we do have all board members present, so we are now going to move to item 3A, approval of meeting minutes from November 16th, 2021. Do you have a motion to approve item 3A?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions or changes, corrections to the minutes? All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. All right, we are at 5A, Follett Destiny Renewal. Information has been there, it's presented. Any questions on that item?
Wait. I'm trying to get here.
Could I ask, as Board President, could I ask for a little bit of an explanation? I read that, but I'm not sure what the manager actually does for our district, managing library and textual resources. Is that a person that we hire from outside or from inside?
Ms. Massimo.
Outside, I guess.
So, good evening, Board President, Superintendent, board members, members of the community, colleagues. I'm going to ask Ms. Lori Massimo to give a brief description of what that is. We currently utilize it in the district, but I'll allow Lori to expand on that.
Good evening. It is simply the name of the software. It's Library Manager within the Follett Destiny system. Resource Manager, that's just the title of it. It's the system by which we catalog. Yeah, it's not a person, sorry.
Oh, it's not a person.
Not
okay.
a person, sorry. So it's the system in which we catalog and inventory all of our textbooks and libraries and additional resources.
Okay. Oh, so it's an electronic system. Yeah.
Electronic system.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Not a real person.
All right, so we're gonna keep going to 5B, new weights for grade point averages.
For honors college level. Okay, so it's 6.9, okay. I think,
We in, with this here, are we in,
Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Oh, are we within the school code in terms of the GPA weights? And so I just had a conversation with my senior student, and she has she's been in JROTC for 4 years. I know it used to be where that extra points were added. Maybe Adriana.
JROTC was never weighted.
Okay, it was never weighted.
No, you do not get extra credit.
And
It's in lieu of your gym credit, which is why it should stay the same.
So so if a student is in JROTC for 4 years straight, there's nothing extra.
You just get more awards on your uniform. You don't get extra academic credit.
I'm just trying to look around to find somebody, because I just remember that.
That they used to give extra grades for
Grade
JROTC.
points, yeah, like for the weighted, the grade point averages for JROTC.
My sister back in '92, no, yeah, she didn't either. I think, no? Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, I must have been mistaken. Okay.
Any other, so this.
That doesn't mean don't take it. It's a great class.
Ms.
But it's just
Wozniak.
not weighted.
So, isn't this keeping the students that are in these regular classes lower points than all the AP courses and the?
I'm going to ask Eric to expand on that.
So they can never achieve as much as the other
AP
students?
With the weighted GPA, right. So I'll circle back to Ms. Hannah's first question, which will kind of jump into all the rest of these two. So weighted GPA is district discretion. So we're proposing, we over the summer have a 6-point scale that we are moving to. Lots of districts have a 5-point scale. our old scale was a 5.6 scale, so each district around the country makes their own scale for the weighted GPA. So the colleges do look at the 4-point GPA. An A is 4, a B is 3, a C is 2. So they always recalculate these to figure out what it is on their end. What we primarily use weighted GPA for is to determine class rank. So colleges will look at class rank. And the weighted GPA, well, there's a 6-point scale, 5.6 scale, or 5-point, will determine the rank. Are you in the top 10? Are you in the top 10%? Are you in the top 20? Are you in the top 100? That's what the weighted GPA is. Okay?
And so I'm going to go back to Ms. Wozniak's question.
Right.
That's not going to be equitable for those students that are just in the core category. And that's not fair. Let me just tell you, and I guess I'm going to do an example quickly.
Oh, wait, I'm going on record with this. Where Ms. Hannah came up and she said we're going to be done at 8 o'clock. And I said, that's up to you. So it is 7:48, but this is an important discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Because, if we have students in core classes, they get straight A's, they still will never, as Ms. Wozniak said, they will never be in the top 10 because their points aren't equal to that. That's not equitable.
But is it equitable to give the same amount of points for an individual who chose to take a harder class? And the only thing I'll say is this is one of those things that's not new, and we can do the equity argument. But my GPA was what it was because I was in the college studies program.
Right.
And by being in the college studies program, we weighted those credits higher than we did the others. And so, again, the logic or the thought process is, again, if students all have the opportunity, which CSP didn't give, you had to choose to be in CSP freshman year, and it was very, very hard to move up or down, more so in. So now anybody can take these AP classes. Anybody can take, if they do them, and we want to encourage more. So I wouldn't go off and say this unequitable or unfair, because you can get somebody, if somebody says, okay, I got straight A's, and this student got straight A's, but I took a full freshman year of AP courses, should that be weighted heavier than someone who just took, smaller gen ed classes or lower level gen ed classes? And that would be one of the things that we want to teach students, is that it's important to try and push yourself in these classes, is because even if you get a B or a C, that could actually help your GPA, but it's also going to better prepare you for college and college level classes. So I'm good for the discussion. I just wanted to add that the CSP was always weighted higher than the rest of
Absolutely,
grades.
absolutely. But and so, you guys hear my concern, right?
But colleges,
We
right?
hear
only-
the colleges are going to take a look at the 4-point scale.
4 points.
So colleges are going to take a look at a student that took the regular courses and got A's in all the regular courses. The students won't be in the top 10 with the weighted GPA, but the college will see that they've got a 4.0, the top level for a straight A student. So colleges will recognize that as a straight A student.
What was the rationale for doing this?
Right. So with it is to make it equitable. It is to encourage students to take honors classes, to take AP and dual credit classes, because dual credit is included with AP. So it's AP and dual credit classes that get the 6 points. So not only to take the honors classes, but this new weight is to not just honors, but go up to the AP, because as it stands right now, well, in the past, the top 10, you could be taking honors classes or you could be taking AP classes, and you'd be at the same weight. So straight A's and honors classes, or straight A's and APs, came out to be the same. This new scale is going to push those that they might be taking AP classes and still get a B, and not get their A that they would have gotten in honors, and it'll put them ranked farther up.
Okay, yeah, okay, and then now briefly, how are you going to disseminate this information to students?
So
The students.
yeah, that's in the deck that's attached. What's going to happen is going out to the 9th grade seminar, the freshman seminar classes, and it's going out to the 8th graders in their orientations in January. So the freshmen right now are going to hear it. The 8th graders are going to hear it. Every 8th grader and freshman from this point on is going to hear it. It's been in the academic handbook for the past couple of years, so that concept has been out there. But now it's like it's kicking off, and it's going to be presented each class section time, and then when school starts up.
Yeah, and I would like to see just, a rallying point, a celebration, motivation, for the students. Oh, yeah, it's like, look, it's better to take AP than regular classes. It's better to take college studies than regular classes. Some kind of little catchy little thing that's going to get their attention and make them think. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, I know that I had this brief conversation with the superintendent about the incentives for these advanced courses. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but just to add on to that a little bit. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak.
I'm looking at the compared GPA, old and new, and PE, in the old GPA, 4.2 and 4.8. I thought PE wasn't weighted.
If you're a varsity,
In the old system, 4.0A was the skills level, and a 4 point, there's a 4 point what? What's the honors level? 4.6? No.
For PE.
4.8 and 5.6.
For PE.
So it was, sorry.
Yeah.
It was 4.0, 4.8, or 5.6 are your three weights for an A. The 4.0 weight was for.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about PE.
Yeah.
he's
PE is in
explaining
the
it.
middle.
Yeah, PE
PE is not a skills course in the old system. In the old system, only the skills courses got the lowest weight. The regular courses, the college courses, all got the middle weight. And then the honors and APs got the top weight.
Okay, then why does student A with an A in PE get 4.2 and the student B get 4.8 for the same A in PE? It's page 10 of the slide
With
deck.
straight A's
Okay.
has a lower GPA with the new.
So,
I'll take a look.
yeah, I don't
AP
know,
classes.
and this is my speculation, but I remember when I was in school that if you were a varsity sport player at that level, you earned more credit. I don't know if academically or because you could take a study hall, and then this scale never made sense to me, and I was a top student. So I'm gonna be on record and say, students, don't worry too much about this. If you get into college, this helps if you want to get to the top schools that are just quite obnoxious. But we need to provide that option for the students who want to go there, because those schools have a lot of money and they get more financial aid. All students should obviously have that, but some colleges are more elitist than others. I think that might have been the situation, but to what was being spoken about earlier, I think that this system of grading, I think, is a little bit unfair, but not because we want it to be. More so because the Harvards and the Yales and the Pomonas of the world want to see the students with 10 AP classes taking like 3 different organizations. And we honestly do have those students. That doesn't mean our other students don't matter, but we have high achieving students, and this gives them a way to compete with other students at that level.
And the highest level is is credit bearing. So AP, if you pass the AP course, you
You
pass
get
the
college
test,
credit.
you get a high enough score, you get college credit for it. The dual credit is college credit awarding. So it is to encourage them to get the college credit awarding. It's not necessarily the status prestige, but it's to get credit for when you're over there. We had a dual credit student just a few years ago, came into freshman year of college with almost a whole semester done
Right.
with the dual credit that's been going on, if not more.
It's to be a step ahead. Yep.
So I think is there any action that we need
No, it's in-
tonight or even at the next board meeting? So it's more so as information with 2025.
You took the action last
Yeah.
summer. This is just letting you know that when the first report card comes out next month for the freshmen, this year's freshmen are going to have the new GPA.
Yeah.
Sophomores through seniors will stay on the old ones. We're going to start with this year's freshmen and move it on up.
If we can just get clarification.
And I just want to add one other piece, is that this is an evolving process as we continue to develop and grow, and you talked about the Harvards, and universities are changing how they evaluate students as well. And so I don't want to open up another conversation, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that this is an evolving process, and that we're talking about weights and GPAs, and soon we'll be talking about standards-based grading, and it'll look a lot different than this. Not that soon, but soon enough, and so I just want to put that out there as well.
And I guess, was there a follow-up as a final question from this one?
Just to get the clarification around the PE piece of it, right? If PE all only falls under core, or if there's some of them that will fall under core, honors, and college level, according to the new GPA weight, because that's what was kind of
I'll take a look at that slide to
Interesting.
see if I made a calculation error. I'll take a look at that slide and get that back to you. But the PE courses are not honors and not AP, so they would be the regular. Under the new system, they would be regular. Under the old system, there was skills that was lower than that, but we've eliminated that skills level.
Okay.
okay.
And so then there are three just requests for conferences. So I'm going to ask if you have questions or concerns about that, bring it forward. But now we have a final presentation, which is the equity policy review process.
Okay. Tasia and Kathy?
All right. Good evening, Superintendent, Board President, Board members, community members, staff. My name is Tasia Fields, and I am your Director of Equity and Inclusion, and I'm here to provide you with an update on our Equitable Policy Initiative. Next slide. So what we have here is a superintendent goal, and this is the Department of Equity Inclusion will collaborate with the legal department and the Equity Advisory Council to review 3 board policies related to student achievement, utilizing a protocol and rubric that focuses on equity and inclusionary practices and culturally responsiveness. Recommended changes and or amendments to existing board policies will be formally presented to the Board of Education for approval. So in an effort to make our school district a more equitable one, we are going to ensure that our policies are not written in a manner that has unintended consequences or present barriers for certain groups. So that's what this work is all about. I know I mentioned that we're going to have 3 done by March, but we are going to engage in this process with all of our policies. So it will take some time. Next slide. And so we did come up with this equitable policy procedure, and in the procedure you will see that it outlines our current policy structure and index. It also identifies participants and their role in this procedure. It includes a projected timeline of this work and recommendations for the final review committee, so those work groups. Next slide. And then what we have here is our equitable policy review tool. Now it is broken down into 5 sections. It's basically a rubric, and it is evaluating policy language. It then looks at access in the policy. Those are, identifying any barriers. Then it'll go to policy significance, and then policy implementation, and then finally it will give a space for a recommendation, whether we're going to modify a policy, whether we need to write a new policy, or there are no changes there. And so on this slide, this is a roadmap of the process. Although it looks straight, you may go back, you may revisit different steps. It starts off with the initial review process beginning, then it goes into the work group that will then use the rubric to evaluate policies. Then there'll be a legal review. Then from there, it will go to our Equity Advisory Council for their review and feedback. Then from there, we'll go to the executive team and then a final legal review. Then from there, those recommendations will be presented to the board. So what you have here is we have prioritized some policies that we want to start off with. Most of them are student-facing, but we do have recruitment, selection, and appointment, which is staff-facing. And we just recently added that one to the priority list, which is a good thing because if you remember in our equity analysis, this was an explicit recommendation of that. So we are addressing that one head on. Next slide. And so some of our next steps would be to begin with the work groups and begin on our priority policies. We're going to review, and this process will start when we return from winter break, with you all receiving a first reading in March. And then our remaining policies, we will prioritize those and create a timeline, and that'll be established in February. That's pretty much it. I do want to thank the legal department and our administration for their continued support and commitment to this work. I want to say that this is very progressive work looking at our policies, and this is an opportunity for us to really make a lasting impact on our district and being more equitable. Any questions?
I just got one.
Okay.
You in the balcony.
I'm in the what?
The balcony. I'm just saying that policy work, and it's okay. I'm just saying, policy work is the board's duty, and I just want to say that when I say in the balcony, they tell us to stay in the balconies and not on the dance floor, and I just want to let you know.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Ms. Field. As part of the Equity Advisory Council, Ms. Hannah, sometimes we understand that the board is doing policy work, but people with more information can inform the policy, and so when we talk about equity, our initiatives, really instructing people who are closest to the work and can get the most information for us can guide us as we create that policy, which is why we review it before it gets passed.
Absolutely.
And I think, the ones that we've prioritized and other people have vocalized should be priorities are really going to make changes that are both, like Ms. Field said, student-facing, staff-facing, and we'll guide that process back and forth through the timeline, and give input, right? Because they have the information, we have the principles and the vision, and that's the collaboration on what it looks like. I'm in the meeting, so when you talk about policy work, I think that's what committee work is for the board.
Yeah, I didn't know that that board member was on any of that committee like that.
And what you will see, can we go back to the list of them, please? And I do want to remind the board, this is one of the superintendent's goals that we had discussed, but there's work groups in regards to the graduation, discipline, curriculum, and those work groups are going to invite specific board members to be part of that. So there will be a board member in each one of those.
Thank you.
So that there's that conversation. As you know, I mean, you pointed that out. So the board will be involved in this, and nothing is moving forward. This is about looking it through a lens of equity, and there's an actual rubric, a very nice rubric, that Tasia has created, I believe, along with Ms. Vanderbrook. I don't want to misspeak, but there's a very nice rubric on how we're looking at our policies to see if they're equitable for all students. So this is a process. It's not about us sitting down and just writing policies outside of the Board of Education. It's about looking at our policies to see if they actually are equitable for all students. And if they're not, then how do we make them more equity and give more students access to them? So I believe as we dive into this work and the board gets familiarized with the, I'm going to call it a rubric, and the process, you're going to understand how this comes about. This is just a high overview.
Mr. Vukovic?
Yes, Ms. Gonzalez had mentioned committee. She's on.
Council.
Who is on that committee?
From the board, or you need the entire list?
From the board.
From the board, Mr. McBride and Ms. Gonzalez.
What did you
What's
got?
the formal name of it?
The Equity Advisory Council?
There's only 2 people, board members, so those are the 2 that are assigned.
No, oh, no. It's 2 separate things. So PTEC is Parent Teacher Advisory Council. You can come.
Who is on that?
So me and Ms. Leguizamo are on it, and that's led by Mr. Christensen, which somewhere around.
Just to keep you guys legal, I heard you invite Ms. Hannah that she could come to a meeting, and that would be in violation of the open meetings act, because there'd be 3 of you there, it would be a majority of a quorum, and I don't see it listed on any of your board docs as a committee, so you might want to update that as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right
It's
on that.
open to the public.
Yeah.
So Ms. Hannah, like you said, I get exactly what you're saying, but that was part of the issue on why we only assign 2. So
And I would beg to differ, if she's there, she's not there as Anita Hannah, member of the public, she's going to be asking questions about having to do with this, and that would be a violation of the open meeting.
which is why we try and keep it at only 2 members that go and participate. But and I just want to, for the record, and that may be something that we clarify, any member could go to any of those, any person, right, of the public or not of the public could go to those. And so I don't want to stop a board member from attending, but Mr. Vukovic raises an important point, which is why the practice of this board has always been to appoint 2 board representatives.
That 3rd board member is there and gives the least bit of comment. You're violating your open meeting.
And thank you, Mr. Vukovic. And we used to just post the committee meetings, and if other board members showed up, there would be no issue. You know, but I have to go back, Board President. I am becoming aware that these committees, the committees, but I'm not on any of the committees, and I'm
You're
just
not on
wondering
health
how
and safety,
come
health?
we haven't had meeting.
That doesn't, but you're still assigned to it, so I don't know who the,
Right,
that's
but
a
the
superintendent question.
wellness committee, I see there's that you guys are going to be doing curriculum. That's my #1 thing. I want to be on the curriculum committee.
But again, we appoint 2, and that's
Right.
at the board president's behest. So there are 2 members who have already been appointed.
On the curriculum?
Well, that's separate. The superintendent just talked to that. So I think we're having this conversation in public that it doesn't need to be. So right now, there's the overall Equity Advisory Council who has made these recommendations. These are the policies that they will be looking at. The superintendent just said that there will be work groups based on each one of those policies, one of those being curriculum. So if you're stating, Ms. Hannah, that you would like to be on that work group, have absolutely no issue with that. But as far as the 2 board members that sit on the Equity Advisory Council, that is Mr. McBride and Ms. Gonzalez.
And I'm just going to say this, that with the appointments onto committees, that each and every board member should be made aware that they are, that the opportunity to be on the committee is there. And I'm sitting over here in awe, because I didn't know, I knew that there was the PTAC, but I didn't know about the Equity Advisory Committee. I would have asked to be on that.
I don't know how when Ms. Fields presented extensively on.
Absolutely, but I'm leave her out of here. Leave her out of there.
So again, yes, the Equity Advisory Committee exists. It was presented to the Board of Education. 2 board members were appointed to sit on that committee.
Maybe I was absent that board meeting.
I don't know. It's at the board president's discretion. So the 2 individuals that had shown interest, I appointed.
Okay, well, now you know that I would like all opportunities.
Yes, ma'am.
Like the other board members to be placed on committees. And you and I will have a private conversation.
But you are placed on committees. You're on finance and you are also on wellness. So that's why I mean we got to be very transparent.
Finance?
You've always been on finance, Ms. Hannah. I mean, that's what I mean when I want to make sure that when we're having this conversation, I'm not picking and choosing. Everybody deserves an opportunity to be on committees. Mr. McBride didn't want to be. Then he said, I expressed interest. And because you already sit on committees and because there are other board members, I gave an opportunity to Mr. McBride. So it was not an intent to disrespect, but everybody else is already on committees. And so this was something new, and he had an interest in it, and Ms. Gonzalez had an interest in it. So if you want me to make you aware of all, but that's perfect. But my decision-making authority was not to exclude, it was to make sure that all board members had an opportunity. And so every board member on this board now sits on a committee. Now, if wellness hasn't met, again, that's a superintendent question.
Question.
Go ahead, Ms. Alexander.
Ms. Fields, thank you for the presentation. In regards of the roadmap for the equity policy, looking at the work group review policies, or the work groups, right? Especially the student-facing policies. How are you going to involve our students? I have had some conversations with like the AP Civics Department, and they have expressed some interest in having their students being a potential voice for the student body. They've got background a little bit in some of like the research into doing policy and what legislation looks like and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to understand if you've already got that going or what that looks like.
Yes, thank you for that question. So in our policy review procedure, there's an appendix and it has recommendations for those work groups that superintendent spoke of, and it has, the students are listed there, student representative is listed there. So we do want to make sure we're engaging in student voice as well.
Okay, and I think that's usually like,
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's, there's usually a group of kids or students that's usually selected, right? So I was kind of trying to disperse that a little bit more.
Sure. So I think the other piece to that is we have asked within the various work groups for them to think about, we can't have every student working on the work group or we'll never get the work done. But how would you get student input? How would you get parent input for those who are not necessarily appointed to work on the committee and the work group itself? And because the work groups will be addressing a series of between 10 and 15, 20 policies at a time, you may need student voices on some policies, but not all. So we have left that to the discretion of the work group and their chairs, and all of the chairs of the work groups are coming from the department leadership team to determine how best to bring students in to get those voices heard in the policies that are applicable and likely to impact them most strongly. So we've approached it from 2 different angles.
Thank you for that clarification and overview. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Board President.
Thank you. All right, it is 8:15. I want to say happy holidays to everyone. Thank you all for attending for this important conversation and for the work that's been done by all. With that, I'd like for a motion to adjourn.
Can I say something? Just one more comment, and sure.
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
I just wanted to say, like, I know that a lot of people are going to go through a hard time this year as we approach the holidays because they may have lost a loved one still, because of COVID, because of other reasons. So, I just want everyone to be mindful of that, like going into the next couple weeks, because, we've lost staff and we've lost family members maybe. So yeah, best wishes with you and your loved ones. But I just wanted to recognize that because we hadn't done that at a previous meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And we have second. And then I'm going to ask when we adjourn, Board of Education and staff that are in their ugly sweaters, if we can, and even holiday, festive, whatever you want to say, if that we come in the front. With that, we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Meeting is adjourned.